Europe did not awaken one morning and decide to become a union. It crawled toward it with bruises still fresh from war, cities shelled into bone, currencies worthless, and the psychic terror of knowing that a continent that once ruled the world had nearly destroyed itself twice in a generation. But beneath the rubble, a stranger realization emerged. Europe did not fear Europe alone. It feared being irrelevant. Because by 1945, two new titans were rising. America, wealthy beyond imagination, and China, waiting with demographic gravity, a civilization with 1 billion sleepers. Europe had culture, memory, and trauma. But power? Power was evaporating. So a question began whispering in elite salons and reconstruction committees. How does a declining empire survive a world of giants? The answer was unsettling. Alone, Europe would be crushed. Together, it might still bargain. The European Union did not begin as a peace treaty. It began as a psychological defense against shrinking. A bet that if enough small states fused, markets, currencies, bureaucracies, Europe could re-enter history as a single strategic organism. The strategy of iron and coal. The first move did not mention America or China at all. It simply said, Germany and France can never again be allowed to fight. So place their most violent industries, coal and steel, under one authority. But beneath this moral packaging was pure geopolitics. Who benefited from a united industrial base? European negotiators already knew. A continental-scale economy could negotiate with Washington as equal partner, not as supplicant. Who feared China's latent future industrialization? The same architects. To unify coal and steel was to unify the veins of war and the arteries of industry. Europe's leaders were creating the first proto-megacorporation of states, not just to prevent tanks, but to build leverage. Because they could already see America's trajectory. A super producer, a creditor, an empire with oceans for armor. Europe needed something America respected, market power. A continent builds a currency. The most audacious move came 50 years later. Currencies are not economic tools. They are psychological weapons. A currency tells the world, this is how we measure value. And if you can measure value, you can dictate behavior. For decades, the US dollar had coerced the world without firing a shot. Oil, trade, debt, everything passed through the American monetary bloodstream. Europe watched the petrodollar and asked, are we sovereign if we price our future in another country's currency? Introducing the euro was framed as convenience, no transaction fees, easy vacations. But deep beneath that was a civilizational calculation. We will no longer rent power, we will mint it. A shared currency also forced political alignment. If states printed money together, they would eventually legislate together. Money is the slowest, most relentless hand of political unification. The euro was not designed for peace. It was designed for scale. Scale against America, scale against China, because when Beijing eventually awakened, and Europe knew it would, the continent needed a monetary fortress. Outsmarting America or imitating it? But can we say the EU was built to outsmart the United States? Perhaps a different wording is more honest. Europe wanted to avoid becoming a satellite. In 1945, the US funded Europe's reconstruction. Europe was grateful, but psychologically humiliated. It accepted money the way a former empire accepts charity, with polite smiles and internal resentment. Dependence is guilt in slow motion, and guilt eventually transforms into rebellion. So while Europe thanked the Marshall Plan with public gratitude, privately it studied America, its federalism, its industrial scale, its single market, and thought, we need our own version of this. The EU is a union of mimicry, same market logic, same regulatory reach, same continental ambition, only with one haunting difference. Europe does not share a single myth. America is a federation built on a story. Europe is a federation built on fears, and fear can unify, but it cannot inspire. So perhaps the real question is, can a union born from insecurity outperform nations born from confidence? The shadow of China. China did not frighten Europe in 1950. It fascinates Europe in 2025. Europe admires China's planning horizons. A country that thinks in 50-year increments terrifies societies planning 4-year election cycles. Europe sees China's industrial machine: steel, rare earths, battery dominance, solar, and senses a new humiliation: technological dependence. So Brussels responded with a weapon older than armies: regulation. The EU does not have a war machine. It has bureaucratic gravity. It uses rules like others use aircraft carriers. If the US projects power through markets and China through manufacturing, Europe projects power through standards. One regulation in Brussels can dictate the way Silicon Valley designs user privacy. Another can force China to redesign its electric cars. And regulation is psychological warfare disguised as paperwork. If you want access to our consumers, you obey our worldview. The EU cannot conquer territory, but it can conquer compliance. That is why corporations fear Brussels more than Beijing. China controls factories. The EU controls legality. So yes, Europe is outsmarting America and China, but only in one domain: the power to restrict. But restriction is not creation. Regulation is a shield, not a sword. Can a shield shape destiny? The fragmented mind. No superpower was built from countries that speak 20 languages and dream 20 histories. Europe contains Catholic guilt, Protestant austerity, Orthodox mysticism, Enlightenment rationalism, aristocratic nostalgia, socialist utopias, and nationalist grudges, packed into a single political experiment. This is not a federal union. It is a psychological powder keg. So the deeper question isn't geopolitical at all. It is existential. Can a civilization lead the world without believing in itself? The EU's greatest competitor is not America's GDP or China's factories. Its greatest competitor is European doubt. Doubt slows votes. Doubt fractures parliaments. Doubt sterilizes imagination. The EU is often portrayed as genius geopolitical engineering, but internally, it behaves like a relationship afraid of commitment. Every treaty is half-signed. Every agreement is conditional. Every promise contains escape hatches. Europe wants unity, but not sacrifice. And sacrifice is the currency of power. Outsmarting or outlasting. Maybe the EU doesn't need to defeat the US or China. Maybe it only needs to survive them. America burns fast, innovative, violent, euphoric, volatile. China expands with imperial patience. Europe advances like a glacier, slow, grinding, silent, and almost impossible to stop. Empires collapse from excess ambition. Unions collapse from insufficient passion. Which will reach the cliff first? The real question. So we return to our opening provocation. Was the EU designed to outsmart America and China? The superficial answer is geopolitical. Yes, Europe wanted bargaining power. The economic answer, yes, Europe wanted scale, currency, and regulatory reach. The psychological answer, no. Europe feared irrelevance more than it desired triumph. But perhaps the deepest answer is this. The EU was not designed to win. It was designed to avoid losing. Winning is a strategy of expansion. Avoiding loss is a strategy of preservation. Europe is preserving memory, preserving universalism, preserving the idea that nations can cooperate without erasing themselves. Maybe that is not outsmarting. Maybe that is evolving. The reflection. Every empire answers the same question. What do we do when we are no longer young? America still believes it is 25. China believes it is eternal. Europe knows it is aging, and wisdom changes ambition. Old civilizations no longer seek domination, they seek meaning. So perhaps the EU is not a geopolitical trick. Perhaps it is a philosophical experiment. Can a civilization with declining power still radiate influence through ideas rather than armies? Can a continent that once conquered the world now choose restraint? Can legacy replace force? And maybe the final question is the most intimate. What is power if not the ability to choose who you become next? The timeless question. The European Union is not a strategy against America, nor is it a shield against China. It is a negotiation with time, a way for a tired civilization to ask, can we matter without violence? Can we unite without dissolving? Can we shape history without repeating it? That is Europe's wager, not supremacy, not rivalry, relevance. Because every civilization eventually confronts the same mirror and whispers the most vulnerable question ever spoken. Do we still matter? And history does not answer quickly. It waits, patient, amused, to see whether doubt becomes destiny or destiny awakens again. Join us on a journey through the ages, where every question becomes an opportunity to discover. Subscribe Timeless Questions channel now and start exploring life's greatest questions with us.